outside the church, because some of us ought to be praying for one another in the church. We bind up that attitude that sometimes run folks off instead of drawing folks in. We bind up that tone. We bind up whatever is keeping your will from being accomplished. Faith, true faith, responds to what God says and not to what you see or what you hear. It has been quoted that faith is not believing in spite of, but it's obeying in spite of the consequences that are surrounding you. Real quick, three things I saw in the text. The three things is why cry. The next one was speak to it. And then the last one is get moving. Why cry, speak to it, and get moving. In Exodus 15, God says to Moses, why cry out to me? Speak to the Israelites. Order them to keep moving. Look at that first point. Why cry? Wherefore criest thou unto me? God is talking directly to Moses, the leader. He said, when we look at this, we don't hear Moses say a word. But God is saying, why cry unto me? Somebody missed it. Moses never cried. It says the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. Moses, it didn't say, he said not a mumbling word. But God didn't speak to the children of Israel. He spoke to Moses. And we hear not the word of Moses praying or even crying out to God. And yet the Lord asked him, why are you crying out to me? From this we can learn that Moses' heart was deeply grieved by what was going on with the children of Israel. And there are times when grief sometimes overwhelms you to the point where you can't even get a prayer out. But God, the good thing about it is God is a prayer hearing God. Hallelujah. Even when you don't open your mouth, God can look at your facial expression. He can look at the heart on the inside and know that there's some folk who done got on your everlasting last nerve. He knows that there's some people who've been lying on you and calling you everything but a child of God. He knows that there's a situation in your body that everybody else said can't be healed. He knows that something is going on that he needs to deal with. Even though you may not say a word. However, we find evidence that we looked through the scriptures and we couldn't find that Moses said anything, that he articulated one single word. But it's possible that God reads your sighs. He reads your tears, but more so he reads your heart. This ought to bring comfort to those who have silent frustrations. You know those frustrations you don't want to tell nobody about? This ought to bring comfort to those who have unspoken pains. In other words, you've been talking to folks and they just call you a crybaby, so you done got tired of even speaking about it, so you just done shut up. It ought to bring comfort to those who have hidden hurts. The pain is so deep you don't want nobody to know about it at all. So you just keep to yourself. Moses, his silent prayers, his prayer of faith prevailed more in the eyes of God than all the Israelites' prayers as they cried out when they thought they were in trouble. I just said something. Moses' silent prayer in his heart met the ears of God more so than all of the Israelites out there who were crying out verbally, because they were crying out from a survival standpoint. Moses was crying out from a salvation standpoint. Come on, somebody. Survival is, I hope you come. If you come, I need you to come. But salvation said you did it before, you can do it again. We just need you to show up, God, right now, right now. Moses cried out from the heart while they cried out from the mouth. God hears the fervent prayers over the faithless ones. He said, why cry out? But then he told him in the second point, he said, speak to it. He's still talking to Moses. And the Lord said to Moses, wherefore cries out to me, speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. God commanded Moses to speak to the children of Israel. But it appears that he wasn't just addressing the people, but he was addressing their unbelief. He said there's some who are walking amongst you who just don't believe, and because they don't believe, they're standing there in fear, and because they're standing there in fear, they're beginning to complain about everything they see. If they just keep on walking and focusing on what's in front of them, they don't have time to complain about what's behind them. He said, I need you to study just a few days ago that unbelief and doubt are two different things. Doubt is something you get when you don't have all the facts, and if you get the right facts in, it'll change your heart about doubting. But when unbelief shows up, it's that stubborn thing that you've already made up your mind. That no matter what anybody says, they can convince you, they can show you the truth and the evidence. But because you believe what you believe, we shall not be moved. That's unbelief. Remember when Jesus showed up in some of those villages? It says he could do not many miracles. Why? Because of their unbelief. They had made up in their minds that he wasn't the Son of God, that he could not heal the sick and raise the dead. They had already made up their minds that he was just a mere mortal man, just like they were. So he could do not many miracles. It's not the fact that Jesus could not heal them, but because of their stubborn spirit, they could not be healed by the one who had all power. There's some things in our lives that's stubborn, and we've already made up our minds about them. There's some people around us, we've already made up our minds about them. And the truth be told, that's an area of unbelief. And in that unbelief, it's going to take the Lord to help you to get moving and to keep moving. But God didn't tell Moses to wrestle with him. He just simply told him, tell him, get up, let's go. Look. And the Lord said to Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak to the children. It didn't say have a full-blown debate. It just said speak to them. It didn't say try to make a move. It said speak to them. Speak to the children of Israel that they go forward. These are the areas within their lives that they refuse to obey what God has said. These are the areas within our lives that we make excuses for why we haven't changed, why we can't change, and even why we won't change. These are the areas in our lives that we have decided to hold on firmly to our unbelief. Jesus could do no miracles in some regions because of the unbelief. You must therefore speak to yourself and speak to others who live around you but need to hear the same words you do. You got to speak to them, not just about them, the individual, but about their circumstance and their situation. You do know the word says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places, because we try to wrestle with people. But God says there's some spiritual wickedness going on all around us. While other folks are scheming, you ought to be praying. Don't wrestle with what's going on right over there. You wrestle in warfare, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds, casting down all imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself up against the knowledge of Christ Jesus. You ought to do warfare in the spirit and not against the flesh. This was necessary to speak to the Israelites. It was necessary because it wasn't as though they did everything right, and it wasn't as though they deserved to be saved. It wasn't as though they were following God by faith, but they needed to be spoke to so that they could hear the voice of God. Amen. There's some folks stuck right now because they can't hear the voice. They're living in homes with people who don't go to church or don't love the Lord. They're living around folks, an environment where they don't hear the voice of God. I'm not talking about your natural voice.